All right, Steeler fans, it is hard to believe we are getting ready for week 9 already in the National Football League, and the Pittsburgh Steelers are getting ready to host the 7-1 Indianapolis Colts. And to talk about this team and this game, I bring in Marcus from the Blues Table podcast, who covers the team for Fans First Sports Network. What's up, Marcus? How are you?
Hey, I'm good. All is well on my side. How about you?
Well, I mean, the Steelers could be better. They've lost back-to-back primetime games in embarrassing fashion, in the fact of giving up over 30 points in each. The defense is struggling, but hey, you're Baltimore. I almost said Baltimore Colts. My apologies. I live in Maryland. People still talk about the Baltimore Colts, by the way. The Indianapolis Colts are looking really, really strong. And I want to get your take on this team's 7-1 start. Is there any concern for fans that are the Colts fans, or are you guys pretty much like, let's ride this wave until we crash down?
It's definitely minor concerns, but it's not to the certain extent of what we used to have with the roller coaster that we were playing in. But right now, I think we're just riding the wave right now. We're on the cloud nine. This is the best we've seen the Colts since maybe 2007, just due to the start. And nobody would have thought it would have been Daniel Jones leading the horse,
Yeah.
but it is what it is at the end of the day. But minor concerns just due to the defense. But that's mostly just due to durability. A lot of people are banged up on the defensive side, but despite of all of the injuries and stuff, Lou Anarumo just draws up a perfect scheme with the players' availability that's out there on the field, just given that they're all week in and week out. So, it's been but don't break, but this defense is definitely a concern. But, with what they got, they've been playing some good ball. So it's good all year round.
Well, I'm an optimistic person. So for the Steelers, give me some optimism here. You said concerns on the defense. Could you please elaborate? Where are the weaknesses on the defense? Would it be in the running game, like run defense, obviously? Is it in the secondary? I know you guys have some injuries there. What are those points of maybe of concern that you mentioned?
So for the weaknesses, I would say it'll be the edge rush on the outside. If the most teams, they seen a sign of it last week. If you decide to run the ball to the outside, you might see some type of success. And then pass coverage when it comes to our linebacker core. Our linebackers are pretty good, but when it comes to pass coverage, covering the middle of the field, tight ends, things of that nature, it can get a little iffy. Now they did get better over time, but in totality, if you're any quarterback with experience, especially like for example, Justin Herbert just dot you up all the field. Now, of course, they wind up losing that game. That's just due to play calling. But if you have a veteran quarterback like a guy like Aaron Rodgers, I say for example, that sees the weaknesses when it comes to pass coverage, who likes to throw the ball. If you throw it towards the middle of the field and maybe attack those linebackers, you might see some type of success.
Okay, that's interesting. Now let's go to the other side of the ball, because I'm absolutely fascinated with the Colts offense. And I think that even after their start, they are one of the more underrated offenses in the NFL. And I don't want to say it's not because of Daniel Jones. He's making the plays when they present themselves. They are running the crap out of the football, but they also have some really good weapons. You got the rookie tight end out of Penn State. You have obviously the bevy of options on the outside. This offense is legit, but has anyone come close this season to slowing down Jonathan Taylor in the running game? I'm curious if you would say there was any team that they've played so far that can do that.
I'll say honestly, no. We haven't seen any defense yet that can stop Jonathan Taylor. The
Well,
guy,
not stop, slow down. Like if there's an offense or defense, it's like, okay, Jonathan Taylor's still making an impact. He is that type of back, and that's that type of offensive line. But is there anyone that's been able to like slow him down and maybe push the ball into Daniel Jones' hands more than you want?
I haven't. I don't think so. I don't think I've seen a team yet that could, at least
Okay.
slow him down. But we played a lot of good defenses so far. Just due to on paper and scheme wise, like I think we just had a good matchup and a good game plan for him. It all comes down to game plan and with Shane Steichen and how they drawn up this offense. This team is just looking unstoppable right now. They're playing at their pace of football, which is good. So, Jonathan Taylor is playing out of his mind, and it can't be. You got to give credit where credit is due to that offensive line. They just are superb at blocking right now, and it's just cloud nine. Like nothing can stop them. So, you're only good as your offensive line, and if they can go out there and block for you, then the sky's the limit.
The running game can travel. That's what I always say. Teams that can run the football, they can go into a hostile environment and they can just run it, and it's going to set everything else up. And that's what the Colts do so well. Like they might get 3-4 yards a clip from Jonathan Taylor, sometimes 5 or 6. It's going to set up those manageable third downs. Now, Daniel Jones has been making the plays. Have you been? Obviously, everyone's been surprised by his success in Indianapolis. Is there any part of his game that you wish was a little bit better, though, after these first 8 games?
Mm, honestly, I don't really see something that could be, improved as of right now because he's doing what he has to do, which is managing the game. You
Yeah.
find the balance. You go out there, you give the ball to Jonathan Taylor. All Colts fans to say run the football. But if you got a guy like Daniel Jones who pretty much is game planning with his coach, spending as much time with him as possible, just talking football all throughout the week, is what they tell us. You just go out there and just make adjustments. His reads, pregame, pre-snap, everything is just up to par what we would expect from a quarterback. And we haven't seen that in so long with all the quarterbacks we've been through. I think he's just been the most complete, I would say. I mean, it could be polished with more of his throws. If you, like I said, when you asked about the concerns, like most of his deep balls, of course, he doesn't have the best arm strength out there. But, some of the balls is just it overthrows, I would say. But honestly, like I said, he's been playing really good football, in my opinion. I think you can ask any Colts fan that, and they'll probably agree. But he's been playing really good, so I don't really
Yeah.
have much issue.
Is this like the Shane Steichen effect? And this is odd because there's a couple layers to this question. Daniel Jones spends time obviously in New York. He has a good running back in Saquon Barkley. When he's there, it doesn't work out. He ends up getting cut. He spends the end of last season in Minnesota with Kevin O'Connell, and obviously he's the free agent signing by the Colts. Shane Steichen has done wonders for him. The running game has done wonders for him. But at the same time, Anthony Richardson, who was with Shane Steichen, did not succeed. What, in your opinion, and you're an outsider just like I am with the Steelers, what's the difference there? Like, what is the difference between, I know obviously play style is going to be huge, but they both were high pedigree guys coming out of college. They both didn't have a crap ton of experience in those venues, whether it was Duke or Florida. What's your take on that with the two quarterbacks?
I think it all comes to preparation and just the environment. A lot of people know Shane Steichen as a QB guru at this point, just due to the quarterback he's been through. And Daniel Jones, he had that time, experience, the patience and things of that nature, and then just being set up for success. His time in Minnesota, you've seen some flashes, even in New York, in that playoff run. It wasn't the best games, but just you could just see the potential he has and experience, being out there. For Anthony Richardson, I think it was just too fast. They put him out there into the fire. They didn't give him time to prep and things of that nature. And he was an experiment coming out of college. You just knew that. The potential is there, but he haven't really had time to really prepare to be an actual quarterback. And he was just thrown into the fire. And then the Colts, the whole game plan and process for him is just really mapped off. If you can see how it is now, with Richardson being on the bench and actually just learning the game, I think that would have been a better process than just instead of just throwing him out there and then getting a old veteran quarterback just to pick up the process when it's not working. You get Daniel Jones, who's been through the process and developed over time, and then you match him up with a guy like Shane Steichen, who did scout him in college. It's just a piece waiting to happen. So they pretty much knew each other for a while, and the fact that Shane got him now is just a matchmaking heaven for the Colts.
That's a great answer. And I think that's spot on. And I want to ask you one more question. It's a two-part question before we talk about the spread and all that stuff. Give me a player on offense and a player on defense that is not a household name that Steeler fans might want to keep their eye on. Someone that is kind of under the radar that can impact the game. Again, one on offense, one on defense, that by the time Sunday 1 o'clock rolls around Eastern time, Steeler fans might say, dang, I heard Marcus talk about that on the Let's Ride podcast this week. Who did that guy? Who is that guy on offense and defense?
So for offense, not a household name for a lot of people, but Colts fans can probably agree. I would say Josh Downs would be that guy for that'll probably wreak havoc against the Steelers, just due to him always being available in his catch radius, and just automatic hands, man, glue hands. Just whenever you find him, he's going to get the ball and get that first down. Extends every play he extends, man. He's so small and hard to find in the offense, but he's so reliable. Definitely a go-to guy on the offense. So be sure to look out for him. 1 o'clock, and then for defense, I will probably go Liatu Latu. Edge rush for the Colts. Pressure rates is always there. Getting home has been an issue for the Colts, but Liatu Latu always puts pressure, regardless of the situation. And going up against the Steelers offensive line, and a guy like Aaron Rodgers who isn't as mobile as what he used to be. A lot of quarterbacks we played so far has been really mobile. Aaron Rodgers is more of a statue just due to his age. He can get the ball out pretty quick, but we've seen that even last week
Yep.
against Michael Parsons and those boys. But pressure bust pipes, and I think Liatu Latu is one of those guys you got to look out for coming up this week.
Joshua Downs, that was your answer on offense, wasn't it? I'm pretty
Yes.
sure he did some damage last year when the Steelers went to Indianapolis. Joe Flacco enters the game when Anthony Richardson goes down, and I'm pretty sure he had his way. That name rings a bell. I think that was the game that he had a really good game against Pittsburgh. So that's a good answer. Okay, now this is interesting. Currently, the Steelers are getting 3 points at home, so they're home underdogs. I think that's a fair. The total, though, is 50.5. Now, historically speaking, the Steelers have experience going against your defensive coordinator back in his time in Cincinnati, and they've typically had their way with his defenses. What's interesting too is that Shane Steichen has had his way with the Baltimore or with the Steelers defense, whether it was his time in Philadelphia or obviously with Indianapolis. I don't need a score prediction, but I'm curious how you, as a Colts fan, think this game's going to shake out on Sunday.
Well, from recent history, always the Steelers always find a way to embarrass the Colts. In my history of being a Colts fan against the Steelers, just goes back to the Ben Roethlisberger's days. Just
Sure.
history always being broken and things of that nature. But I've always had respect for Mike Tomlin, and then just home field advantage in general. Pittsburgh, knows how to protect their turf. Now, of course, last week we won't talk about it, but history repeats itself. They always have a good home record, things of that nature. Especially the Colts being on the road, weather breaking, playing outside could play a factor, things of that nature. But just due to the momentum they have right now, of course, I'm going to pick the home team with the Colts. But I do think it's not. I don't think it's going to be as high scoring as possible. It'd probably be lopsided just due to how both teams are playing at the moment. But I say it should be a good game. It just definitely comes down to protecting the football for both teams. Honestly, both
Yeah.
teams have to protect the football, and if they don't, they could be lopsided. I just don't see it being close.
Okay. So in other words, you're predicting a dominant Colts win that's under the 50.5, but definitely covers the 3 point spread. Did I read you correctly?
Yes.
If I'm being completely fair, if you said that to most Steeler fans now, they'd say, "Yeah, I can see it." And that's just that would be their response. They might be upset saying that, "Yeah, I can see it," but at the same time, let's call a spade a spade. They're just not playing the best football right now. But I will say this: every now and then in the Mike Tomlin era, they have these games where you're thinking they're dead to rights, dead in the water, whatever you want to say, and they find a way to win these games
Just
sometimes.
flip a switch.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it's going to happen this Sunday, but there are those games. But Marcus, I do appreciate your time. I'm going to give you an opportunity to plug what you're doing with the Blue Stable podcast. I know you have a website, social media handles, all that stuff. Go ahead and do that now.
Yes. So you guys could follow us on all platforms. Shout out to you guys for reaching out to us. But check us out on Twitter. We're live on game day. The Blue Stable. Type us in on Twitter or X, when people might call us, and you'll see us. We have a website where we drop the podcast and articles, which is thebluestable.com. You could check me out, Culture Shot _ I'm going live on game day too, and we go live on Twitch, which is the Blue Stable Podcast.
All right. Sounds great. Marcus, man, thanks for your time. Enjoy the game. We'll be in touch. Take it easy.
No problem. You as well.